18 days after I scattered my father's ashes, the HOA fined me $500 a day for keeping his yacht at our dock, so I bought the entire lake for $2.3 million, locked all 6 gates and turned 249 families into trespassers overnight. The HOA president thought she was untouchable, spent 3 years coming after me because I testified against her. Husband's bank in court and cost them $340,000. She figured a diesel mechanic with grease under his nails couldn't fight back. She was wrong. That yacht wasn't just fiberglass and teak. It was 8 years of my dad's hands, his retirement dream, the last place we talked before his stroke. So when she tried to erase him, I erased her power instead. Ever had someone weaponize petty rules to destroy something you love? Drop your worst HOA nightmare below. Most insane story gets featured next video. And let me know where you're watching from. I bet half of you are nodding right now. My name's Garrett Stolz. I'm 54. Spent 12 years in the Navy as a sonar tech, and the last 25 running a 3-bay marine diesel shop in upstate New York. My hands are permanently stained with grease. My knuckles are scarred from seized bolts, and I'm completely fine with that. I fix boat engines. I don't wear suits. I don't apologize for either. I live in Cascade Pointe, 250 homes wrapped around Lake Emery, about an hour north of Albany. It's one of those manufactured lakeside communities where everyone's got a dock, and half the residents spend more time measuring their neighbor's fence height than actually enjoying the water. I moved back 12 years ago when Dad got sick. He begged me to stay after Mom passed. So I did. Dad, Walter Stolz, was an original resident, founding member back in 1992, back when the HOA actually helped people instead of hunting for violations. He spent 8 years restoring that yacht, bought it for $4 grand, turned it into a $60,000 vessel with his own hands. The Wanderer, 32 feet of bayliner with teak decks, he refinished 3 times. Brass fittings he polished until they glowed. Step aboard, and the smell hits you first. Marine diesel mixed with teak oil and sun-warmed canvas. The halyard clinks against the aluminum mast when the wind picks up. That specific rhythm sailors know like a heartbeat. Dad's coffee mug still sits in the cabin, "World's okayest sailor" printed on the side. Mom gave it to him as a joke. I can't move it. 2 months ago, Dad had a massive stroke at that helm. I was there working on the engine below deck, heard the thud. Held his hand while paramedics worked on him, his calloused palm still warm. He died 3 days later. We scattered his ashes from the stern rail on a Tuesday morning. Me, my wife Bryn, our son Cole. The water was glass smooth, the kind of perfect Dad always waited for. Bryn teaches 4th grade. She's got 0 patience for bullshit and a teacher's instinct for spotting lies. Cole's a junior at SUNY Maritime, learning diesel systems and navigation following the family trade. We live in Dad's original ranch house, mortgage almost paid off. We're not wealthy. We're honest work comfortable. The yacht sat legally at slip 44. I paid marina fees through the HOA every year, $144 annually, never missed one. Never caused trouble. Kept my head down because that's the deal in HOA communities. Stay invisible, stay safe. But there's always someone who won't let you stay invisible. Cordelia Thatch, 61, HOA president, 3rd consecutive term, owns the biggest waterfront lot, 4,800 square feet of granite countertops, and her own reflected glory. Her husband Preston is VP at Regional Trust Bank. They treat the HOA like a country club membership committee, deciding who's worthy of their lakefront utopia. Here's what matters. 3 years ago, I testified as an expert witness in a contractor fraud case. Marine engine warranty dispute. Preston's bank was on the hook. My testimony about diesel systems was technical, detailed, and cost them $340,000. I was just telling the truth. Preston took it personally. Cordelia took it as a declaration of war. You could smell her perfume from 20 feet away. Chanel No. 5, applied like biological warfare. She ran that HOA like her personal kingdom, and everyone was too scared to object. 18 days after I scattered Dad's ashes, I heard the mail truck's diesel engine idling in my driveway. The carrier's boots crunched on gravel. He handed me a thick certified envelope, wouldn't meet my eyes. I signed for it standing there in my work coveralls, smelling like 2-stroke oil. Inside was a letter that would change everything. The HOA had held an emergency board meeting, and amended the dock rules. Vessels over 24 feet or showing cosmetic deterioration were now banned. The Wanderer was 32 feet with honest wear. What Cordelia called deterioration, I called 8 years of Dad's sweat. I had 14 days to remove it or pay $500 per day. The meeting happened at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was never notified. Vote 4-1. Only Hayes Murdoch, a 71-year-old retired contractor, voted no. That single dissent would matter later. Day 15. I was at my shop rebuilding a Yanmar diesel when my phone buzzed. Dude, check your boat. I drove to the lake and found a bright orange violation sticker plastered across the Wanderer's windshield like a parking ticket from Satan himself. Violation. $500 per day assessed. The certified invoices arrived weekly. $500 per day, 18% annual interest compounding. By day 20, $10,000. Cordelia's math was bulletproof. I hired Simone Killard, a property attorney and former Navy JAG, sharp enough to fillet lies. She pulled the bylaws immediately. Emergency meetings require 72-hour written notice to all residents. New York state law. Not optional. The meeting minutes showed they'd emailed Walter Stolz 1949@al.com, Dad's ancient AOL account. I'd never accessed it. The executor was still transferring accounts when they held their midnight vote. Simone filed to nullify. Clear procedural violation. Then Cordelia's attorney, Preston's college roommate naturally, produced an affidavit. Good faith effort defense. Estate records listed that email. They'd used best available contact information. The judge bought it wholesale. Here's your legal nugget. New York courts give HOAs massive latitude on aesthetic standards if applied uniformly. That word uniformly becomes your weapon because nobody enforces rules uniformly. That night I sat on the Wanderer, beer sweating in my hand, defeat letter crumpled beside me. I ran my fingers over Dad's carved initials in the helm console, WJS plus GMS, 1998, done with a pocket knife on a Sunday afternoon. Water lapped the hull. A loon's cry echoed across dark water. My knuckles cracked in the silence. Bryn's footsteps on the dock behind me. They're not taking this. I looked up at her. No, they're not. Then we research everything, her violations, her patterns, her mistakes. I smiled. Bryn had that teacher instinct. She could smell a pattern of behavior from a mile away. Time to build a case. Day 30. Fine $15,000. Cordelia posted on the community Facebook group. 600 members watching. Sad when one person's nostalgia holds 249 families hostage to declining property values. She didn't name me. Didn't have to. Her post mentioned my financial limitations and blue-collar background like they were contagious diseases. It implied the Wanderer was a safety hazard, complete fiction. The yacht had current Coast Guard certification. I kept the paperwork in a binder thicker than her empathy. 3 allies commented within minutes, supporting community standards. 30 likes by noon. I couldn't sleep. 3 a.m. found me at Dad's old desktop in the workshop. Cold coffee, diving into county property records. Looking for leverage, any violation, zoning issue, anything. Then I saw something strange in Lake Emery's deed history. The lake wasn't county or state property. It was privately owned by Emery Lake Holdings LLC, Delaware Shell Company. The HOA had a 99-year lease from 1989. Real estate nugget. Private lake ownership is common in the Northeast. Most waterfront HOAs lease water access. They don't own it. Residents never check because who would? I paid $180 for corporate records. Emery Lake Holdings belonged to Horace Emery's estate, the original developer, dead since 2014. His estate spent 8 years in probate hell, fighting heirs, embezzling lawyers, chaos. The lake sold at probate auction in 2021. Buyer, Clearwater Assets LLC, another shell. I traced it through 3 corporate layers, all public records, all free. Then I found it on LoopNet Commercial Real Estate Lake Emery, 157 acres, for sale, 11 months listed. Price $2.3 million. The listing note read, existing tenant lease under review, buried in the description. Renewable at new owner's sole discretion. My heart stopped. Sunlight crept through the workshop window. Coffee stone cold. The smell of sawdust mixed with 3 decades of Dad's projects. Varnish, Wood shavings possibility. Bryn appeared in the doorway. Printouts scattered across Dad's workbench like battle plans. Can we afford this? I calculated fast. Dad's life insurance, $180K. Our savings, $95K. Home equity, $140K available. We'd be completely broke. Her hand found my shoulder. Warm and steady, or we'd own the water they're using to drown us. I looked at the listing again. The number didn't seem so impossible anymore. Time to make some calls, day 42. I kept the Wanderer docked, paid my fees, went to work. Acted normal while researching loans. Then Cordelia struck. AM. I was under a mercruiser when my phone erupted with texts. I drove to the lake and found a barge labeled North Shore Marine Towing, 2 workers in high-vis vests, a cop car, and Cordelia standing on the adjacent dock like Napoleon watching Waterloo. Preston filmed everything on his phone. The morning air smelled like diesel exhaust and impending disaster. I walked down with Simone. I'd called her immediately. She handed the tow operator a cease and desist before he touched a cable. Seizing this vessel without court judgment is conversion. Criminal theft. Legal nugget. HOAs can fine you into poverty, but they cannot physically seize property. They need a civil judgment, then a sheriff's sale. Towing without court authorization is a felony, and licensed companies won't risk their business over one HOA president's vendetta. The operator called his boss. His boss called their lawyer. 5 minutes, they unhooked and left. Cordelia's face achieved a purple I didn't know was biologically possible. This is my community. I stayed dead calm. No, ma'am. This is your leased dock. Big difference. Sheriff Vance Dietrich reviewed the paperwork. He's paid fees through September. Get a court order or I cite you for harassment. Her shriek carried across the water. 35 neighbors watched. Several filmed. That afternoon, Nextdoor exploded. Cordelia Thatch abuse of power, thread of his comments in 6 hours. Stories poured out. Selective enforcement, personal vendettas, threats. Hayes posted his 3-year spreadsheet documenting her patterns. Her faction counterattacked. Mob mentality from people who don't respect values. Too late. Doubt was spreading like oil on water. That night, my shop, fluorescent lights buzzing like trapped wasps. I showed Simone the lake listing. She whistled. You're serious? If I own it, their lease is my contract. She pulled the lease terms. Says at new owner's discretion. You could terminate entirely. What happens to dock values without water access? Financial massacre. 40 to 50% loss. My smile wasn't kind. Let's make an offer, she grinned back. Turns out attorneys love creative revenge as much as mechanics do. I called the listing broker next morning. Commercial real estate specialist. Shocked anyone local showed interest. Property's toxic, he said. Probate was hell. Title insurance cost a fortune. Investors want clean deals. This isn't clean. Asking $2.3 million. Seller desperate to close. I met with Regional Credit Union, pointedly not Preston's bank. Loan officer Kendra Wu reviewed my proposal. Commercial property with revenue potential. The numbers worked. Charge residents for access or rent 250 docks commercially at $800 a month. Annual revenue $200,000 plus, risk level high. Interest 8.5%, but 157 acres of lake made excellent collateral. The catch 20% down required. $420,000, I had $415,000. Dad's life insurance, our savings, home equity, short $5,000. Needed a co-signer with commercial real estate experience. Saturday morning, farmer's market. Found Hayes examining apples like he was buying diamonds. The air smelled like cider and October leaves turning. I explained the plan beside his pickup. He listened, arms crossed. Finally, I'm 71, watched that woman destroy good people for 10 years. Long pause. I'll co-sign. 20% equity. Deal. Hayes invests $5K, gets 20% ownership plus board seat in the new management company. We shook hands over his tailgate. His grip was calloused, solid, final. Financial nugget. Life insurance proceeds are federally tax-free, perfect for large purchases. You can use them as collateral for secured loans. Banks love guaranteed money, and most people never realize this option exists until they need it. I signed purchase agreements that afternoon. 30-day closing period. During those 30 days, silence. Let Cordelia celebrate. Let her think the lawsuit was working, that the blue-collar mechanic was breaking. Meanwhile, I was quietly buying the entire lake she thought she controlled. Patience isn't just a virtue. Sometimes it's a weapon. First order of business, create Wanderer Lake Holdings LLC. Paperwork with New York Secretary of State, IRS number in hand. Hayes, being the seasoned landlord, set up liability insurance and zoning compliance like he was making a grocery list. Legal nugget: buying property through an LLC shields your personal assets. If they sue, they can only claw at the company. Not your house, not your savings. Remember, corporate shell HOA witch hunt. We hired a surveyor to mark the lake boundary. The guy tromped through cattails and poison ivy, clipboard in hand, and came back grinning. The HOA's beloved North Shore Pavilion. Encroaching 18 feet onto the lake. Translation: giant community eyesore squatting on my soon-to-be property. Leverage gift-wrapped title search revealed a $4,700 unpaid tax lien. I used it to lower the price. $2.28 million. Seller eats the lien. $20,000 saved just because I asked. Real estate nugget: probate properties are messy but usually 20–30% below market. Institutions hate red tape. Solo buyers with patience can feast. Simone, my attorney, drafted the 30-day notice. Ownership transferred. Lease under review. New terms forthcoming. Translation: prepare to beg. Meanwhile, I planned enforcement. 50 shiny metal private property. No trespassing signs ordered. Locksmith hired to rekey pavilion and 6 access gates. Bryn and I documented docs. 249 families paying $12 a year. Total $2,988 in lake revenue. Humorous aside, that's less than my shop bills for one outboard rebuild. And they called it financial stewardship. My proposed terms: $500 per household monthly. $149 million in annual revenue, a 500x increase. They'd choke on it, which was precisely the point. The night before closing, Hayes and I sat on the Wanderer sipping Dad's whiskey. Stars freckled the black water. The dock creaked like it approved. "Your old man's watching," Hayes said. Proud as hell. I swallowed hard. He taught me, don't get mad. Get leverage. Hayes lifted his glass. To leverage. We drank and the lake whispered like it already knew we owned it. Day 60. Cordelia pulled the trigger on her biggest play. County court lawsuit. $30,000 in unpaid fines, plus emotional distress to the community. The newspaper ran her quotes with zero skepticism. One man's arrogance threatens 249 families' values. They even staged a photo, her on the dock. Arms folded, lake behind her like a campaign poster. I stayed silent. Simone said, "Let her feel like she's winning." Meanwhile, I was a signature away from owning the very water that Doc floated on. Cordelia doubled down. Called a special HOA meeting, demanded every household pay a $5,000 legal defense assessment. 180 residents crammed the pavilion. The air smelled like burnt coffee from the giant urn in the corner, and the tension was thicker than the powdered creamer. Vote was razor thin, 96 for 84 against. She technically won. But 84 angry neighbors writing $5,000 checks? That's political suicide on layaway. Then came her sabotage attempt. She dragged her buddy, a code inspector, out to crack down. He declared my fence 8 inches too tall and cited me for painting my shed gray instead of gray. Yes, you heard that. Cordelia weaponized spelling. I actually laughed so hard I spilled coffee on the violation slip. Paid the $200 fine on the spot. Ripped one board off the fence, repainted the shed in 3 hours. Then dropped my counterpunch. Filed a harassment complaint with the town supervisor, complete with ring footage of the inspector, cozying up on Cordelia's porch 2 hours before he judged my fence. The town fired back with a written ethics warning. Inspector recused himself. Cordelia's ambush collapsed like a soggy cardboard box. That night, Hayes showed up with 2 pizzas. Grease stains on my hands, cheese grease on his chin. We laughed like kids ditching class. Cordelia thought she had me cornered. She didn't know I was 2 days away from owning her lake. Day 85. Certified letters hit 249 mailboxes like depth charges, each one heavy with my LLC's letterhead. Notice of ownership transfer. Lake Emery is now private property under new ownership. All existing leases terminated. New terms forthcoming. The quietest nuclear strike I've ever launched. By mid-morning, Facebook imploded. 300+ frantic comments. Can he evict us from our own docks? Is this even possible? One realtor bluntly posted, "Without water rights, your waterfront value drops 45% overnight." People panicked. Mortgages, retirement college savings, suddenly fragile. At the Thatch mansion, Preston read the letter over breakfast, paled, pulled up county records. Cordelia. He owns the lake. He looked like someone yanked the rug off Wall Street. Cordelia crushed a mug in her fist. Ceramic shards skittered across the tile. By noon, neighbors stormed my shop. I was under an outboard, oil dripping on the pan, when one demanded, "You don't actually think you own the water?" I didn't even roll out. "Talk to my attorney." Numbers on the letterhead. Hayes leaned on the bench, wrench in hand. He doesn't think, he knows. Read the deed. That afternoon, Hayes published his secret weapon, a 3-year spreadsheet of Cordelia's violations, 47 citations, 44 targeting opponents. Next door went wildfire. Parents recalled her playground threats. Vets relived the flagpole scandal. Single moms remembered garden gnome violations. Collective rage mounted. Cordelia's counter, call emergency board meeting. Hayes blocked quorum. By sunset, 2 members quit outright. The Queen was losing pawns fast evening, dockside. The air smelled like ozone, storm rolling in. Lake Black restless. Bryn slipped her hand into mine. "You think Cordelia finally understands?" "Yeah," I said. Thunder rumbling. "She knows it's over. Tomorrow we don't just end her reign, we bury it." Day 90. Pavilion meeting. This time the crowd wasn't there to applaud Cordelia. They were there to see if their docks just became worthless. 218 residents crammed the room. The air stank of burnt coffee and damp jackets, storm rain pelting the roof like drum rolls. Local news cameras blinked red lights. Sheriff Vance Dietrich leaned in the back, arms crossed, unreadable. I wheeled out a projector, flicked it on. First slide county deed stamped and signed. As of October 1st, Lake Emery is privately owned by Wanderer Lake Holdings, LLC. Translation, me, murmurs surged. Next slide, lease clause, circled bold. Renewable at new owner's sole discretion. Cordelia shot up, voice cracked. Extortion. He's holding you hostage. I stayed calm. Funny word, hostage. Let's check who's been taking hostages here. Hayes tapped to the next slide, her violation spreadsheet. 47 fines, 39% against political opponents. The projector threw red bars across her face like a mugshot. The room exploded. Shouts, mutters. One man slammed the folding table. Then came the hammer. Photo slides of locked gates. New padlocks gleaming in morning rain. This morning all access points rekeyed. Pavilion, ramps, docks. As of now, 249 trespassers, gasps. Someone cursed. A child cried. Cordelia screeched, "He can't do this!" Sheriff stepped forward, voice deadpan into the mic. "Actually, ma'am, he can. It's his property." The silence was electric. Every camera lens zoomed in. I leaned on the podium. "Here's my offer. 50 a household annually. If Cordelia resigns, board restructures, fines erased, independent manager installed. Plus 2% dock fees toward a community scholarship fund. Refuse and those locks stay closed for good." Preston tugged her trembling arm. "Sign, now." Cordelia bolted, mascara running. As the board voted 4-0 in favor, reporters swarmed me. "Why?" I looked into the lens with Dad's yacht gleaming in background. Because my father wasn't junk. And bullies only understand one language, leverage. 48 hours after the Pavilion showdown, Cordelia resigned. Her lawyer warned her plain, stay on and she'd face criminal harassment exposure. Preston listed their lakeside palace within a week. The day moving trucks pulled out, neighbors stood in driveways watching like it was 4th of July. Somebody actually lit sparklers. A brand new board formed, 5 fresh members, Hayes as interim president. Their first act, wiping out every bogus fine. People I barely knew showed up with casseroles, thank you notes, even hugs. A Korean war vet shook my hand, tears in his eyes. "They fined me for my flagpole in my son's honor," he whispered. "Thank you. You gave it back, but it wasn't just payback." Hayes and I launched the Horace and Walter Emery Memorial Fund. Now 2% of dock fees go to scholarships for local kids and cover lake costs for families on hard times. We signed with state conservation. Lake Emery became protected. Jet skis banned, shoreline cleaned, fish restocked. In June, Cascade Pointe finally felt whole again. Potluck tables groaned under barbecue, the smell of smoked ribs mixing with lake air. Kids ran across docks, music drifting under strings of lights. We named it the First Wanderer Festival. No citations, no fine letters, just laughter. Later that month, Bryn, Cole and I took the Wanderer out at dusk. We scattered the last of Dad's ashes. Teak warm under my feet, diesel hum steady. Cole grinned. Dad, you're a legend online. Reddit's calling this yacht revenge of the century. I laughed. Tell them the trick's simple. Learn the rules, then buy the rulebook. Now it's your turn. Drop your worst HOA nightmare in the comments. Wildest one gets featured next week. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you love watching bullies get billed for their arrogance.